of the India Shopping Centre Forum 2015, the 8th edition of this conclave that brings together the biggest players, the brightest intellects, and the most visionary leaders, and all the stakeholders of the shopping centre industry who seek to take a mall and shopping centre experience beyond shopping to creating experiences and reinventing shopping centres for the consumer of today. We begin with our knowledge series. We are suffering from this typical day two syndrome at any conference where we have a thinner attendance, but then we have Mr. Thomas Malayal, who will be taking us through this. His session is very interactive, so may I request all of you to kindly come right out here. If you could occupy these front rows, then we can have a more interactive session, which is what Thomas will engage you in. Thomas, of course, is an international expert, a senior advisor, the Jerde Partnership USA, and former CEO, Lippo Malls Indonesia. He has over 20 years' experience as a senior retail estate executive, and he's been a consultant to Macerich USA, Lippo Malls Indonesia, Dial Companies USA, Malabar Holdings, Target, Sears, JCPenney, Nordstrom, Macy's, you name it, the works. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Thomas Malayal, who will talk to us about the top 10 strategies to rejuvenate your mall, learnings from the world's best malls that reinvented themselves. Thomas Malayal, thank you.
Well, good morning. First of all, thank you for coming. So this is the crowd that didn't have that extra Johnny Walker Black last night. You know, my mother used to say, no one ever wakes up in the morning and says, I wish I would have had one more drink. So thank you for coming. I'm honored to be in India. This is my 7th trip. The first time I came to India was 1981. I was 10 years old, and it was a very different place. And since then, I've seen tremendous changes in India. I know yesterday on the panel I gave some tough love, but the reality why sometimes I say I give tough love to India is because I expect so much more, and I know there's the ability to do it. So what I hope to do today is talk a little bit about some international ideas. I spent most of my career in the United States, but I've worked in emerging markets, and Jerde has projects across the globe. Also, I just wanted to say, I'm not here in a paid capacity. I'm here as a volunteer. I'm on the board of the International Council of Shopping Centers. That's a New York-based organization. It's the largest global trade association for the shopping center industry. I know that when I first met Amitabh and his crew, he was with ICSC, and I thank them for letting me to come and speak with you today. I would like you all to have your pen and paper, because I'm going to give you some websites that I recommend you check out. So for ICSC, www.icsc.org. I always say, you know, life is relatively short, so let's not reinvent the wheel. ICSC has got experience from developed markets and emerging markets. I think there's a lot of materials for you and your companies to learn from, and there's no need to repeat past mistakes. So this is the top 10 list I'm going to discuss today. I don't know, does anyone, raise your hand, does anyone know David Letterman? Who's David Letterman? Right, he's a talk show host in the United States, like maybe depends on your generation, but like Johnny Carson. So he's retiring, but what his great, I guess, idea for the late night talk show host was top 10. He always had top 10 lists. So I'm just going to copy him, and he's retiring. So the plan today is we'll discuss the first 5, and then we'll maybe have 10 minutes for questions, a little bit of a stretch break, and then we'll do the second 5. I'm a great believer that people's attention span is around 45 minutes. I have a lot of degrees, and I could never focus more than an hour at a time. So the top 10 I'm going to talk about today is wow me, green me, serve me, clean me, protect me. That's the first 5. And the second half we're going to talk about make me feel at home, connect with me, globalize me. Don't Indianize me, globalize me. Respect me and plan for me. I think this cartoon could apply to India as well as the United States. So I don't know if you know who Gap is, but Gap is a ubiquitous American retailer. It's the American landscape. You know, each one of those is a mall. And I don't think this is a good situation. If all our malls look and feel the same, the consumer is going to make another decision about where she spends her money. So, what do we have to do? Wow me, I have options. When I say I'm the consumer. Who knows where this is? Anybody? So this is the after photo, but this is called Santa Monica Place. Santa Monica, California, where I spent 15 years of my life and I have a home. It's attached to a four-block layout of individual stores. So this was a mall that I worked on in the acquisition in the late 90s, and it was a failed mall. This is the after. So I'm going to do some before and after so you can see about how do you wow the consumer. This is wow. Wow means when people show up. If I showed you the mall before we did it, you wouldn't see very many people. So the top photo is Santa Monica Place before the redevelopment. It was kind of walled off like a fortress. Again, this is attached to a four-block dynamic retail street, probably from a sales productivity-wise, one of the highest. It's not Rodeo Drive. Rodeo Drive is luxury. Santa Monica Place was attached to this street that's called the 3rd Street Promenade that essentially is a mall with the roof off. So after the project was done, it opened up. So before, we had essentially, we walled off the customer. Now we accept the customer. The design architect was Jurdy, what's an LA-based firm that I'm associated with. This was how the outside looked. The top, very 1980s feel. This is the middle now, more of a welcoming, dynamic area. The top is the old food court, where when I used to walk down for lunch, I'd go there. Depressing. I don't know if people know Santa Monica, but Santa Monica is a pretty affluent community on the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful weather. We have an enclosed mall. The bottom is put the food on the top level. If you look at the background, that's the Pacific Ocean. Why do we stick people down in this ugly food court on the top where we have the opportunity for natural beauty? The top is the interior mall, what it looked like. Failed mall, lifeless mall, that's one of our topics today. Now, the bottom is what it looks like today. Attractive, so the customer is willing to come and spend money. On this side, we have the previous mall. On the top, you can again see the top level of the mall. I know India's got environmental issues as far as the weather. People want air conditioning. But maybe in some parts of the country, there's an opportunity to do more open air. And Bangalore, I know, historically has relatively good climate. So maybe you should think about, depending on where your center is, you can have some open air component. The next center, also in Los Angeles. I don't know if you're familiar with Westfield. They're a Sydney headquartered global shopping mall group. One of the things we're talking about is lifeless malls. In my professional opinion, the best company at redevelopment is Westfield. I'd say my former company, Macerich, is number 2. But the whole idea is to take good centers and make them better. So Westfield, the first time I went to Los Angeles was 1998. And this mall is next to a hotel. And put it this way, I was very concerned when I went over there for dinner. The neighborhood wasn't so great. They built this on the 405 freeway, which is one of the leading freeways in Los Angeles. And that's the front door. Very appealing. Wows the customer, makes her maybe potentially exit and go to the center. Before, the customer that went to the center is maybe not the customer you want or your retailer wants. So that's the site plan today. It does roughly $600 US per square foot, retail sales. This is what it used to look like. Very appealing, right? Wow, I want to go there. Terrible. That was the old site plan. This mall used to do maybe $300 US per square foot. So post-renovation, 600. How do we make money in the mall business? Retail sales productivity. The more sales retailers can do, the more rent they can do. That's how you pay for that investment. So, just my point on those projects is that I'm not going to repeat what a lot of people have said in the last 2 days. We have lots of threats to the shopping mall business, right? We have e-commerce, we have catalog. In India, you have unorganized retail. So there's no shortage of competition. So the question is, how are you going to differentiate yourself and make it appealing for the customer to come to your project? I won't go through every detail here, but the reality is it's just saying that retail is always changing. Department stores were the dynamic, dominant force. Most of my career at Macerich was dealing with department stores, like we heard Macy's, JCPenney, Nordstrom, etc. But they're less important today in the United States, and specialty retail is. But there's always a new threat, because there's always change. And now it's omni-channel e-commerce. So the retailer, who's our customer, simple principles, right? Business is providing solutions to people's problems. So the retailer has to always adjust. Change is the only constant. Now the challenge as a mall owner is that real estate is relatively fixed. We build it. You can't just change it very easily. But we have to be thinking about how do we change. One number I would recommend you write down. In my experience, a mall needs to renovate every 8 years. Okay, you can let it slip, 9 years, 10 years, but you are encouraging competition, in my experience. So I know we're in India, we're not in China, but in China, 8 is a lucky number, so remember 8. This life cycle, everyone knows this. Change is faster than it ever has been. So we used to have a long time to make decisions. We have much less time today than we ever did. So if you're thinking about, like what I said, 8 years renovating your mall, your lifeless mall potentially, or your mall that could be better, you can see on the chart, the goal in life is to make the change before you start doing this. I will tell you the 2 malls that I showed you at the beginning on the WOW, Santa Monica Place and Westside Pavilion, they went pretty far close to the bottom before they were renovated. It should have happened sooner. Some other WOW experiences. Has anybody been to this store? Okay. Who has a daughter under 10? Anybody? So if you want to become a rich man in India, I say sometimes the Chinese are very good. Just copy it. Instead of American Girl, just make it Indian Girl Place. And what it can be is the experience. So I have a 7-year-old daughter, Zoe. She likes to buy $100 US dolls from here. So that's why I have to work so hard, because they're so expensive. But this is the experience. It's not just about the doll. You can buy the outfit. You can go to their cafe with your mom, your girlfriends, and have tea, overpriced tea. But it's the entire experience. So when I say wow, is your mall just a distribution hub? Or are you making people go and have an experience they cannot have online? Okay, Green Me. This is more of a personal thing. So my kids, I have twins, Pierce and Zoe, and we decided to spend a year in Bali, Indonesia. And they go to this place called the Green School. Now, I don't expect all these commercial people here to become, greenies. But take a look at the website, greenschool.org. There's some ideas you may get there that you can apply to your mall. So why do you want to be green? Because I really believe the customer wants to be sustainable and wants to be more green. And India, given its incredibly large population, has got to do things differently than the West. as far as its economic growth so fast. Otherwise, you're going to have a disaster like China. When I go to China, I can't breathe. I go to Beijing, maybe I'm rich, but if I can't have fresh air or fresh water, what good is it? So I think that maybe the benefit sometimes, if I say China is the hare, the rabbit, and India is the turtle, but maybe we can learn and make better decisions. So one place I find that's very forward-thinking about green, Singapore, they do green walls. On the roof, they do green. I think something to think about in your designs. I think the customer likes it, and if the customer feels that it's important to their personal worth, they'll come to your center. Who knows who Aon is? Anybody? Raise your hand. Where are they from? Which country? This company, Aon, A-E. Oh, okay. Aon is Japanese developer, very active in Southeast Asia. Solar panels. Is there a lot of sunlight in India? Is there a lot of electricity problems in India? No power cuts? No demand? We all know the answer, right? So when you have buildings, you have big expanses of roof. Are we using it? I think you should think about it. And solar panels in cost have come down so much. In the United States, for example, Macy's, they have big stores, right, all across the country, very aggressive in putting solar panels on the roof. And as a mall operator, let's think commercial. If you put solar panels on the roof, maybe you can resell it to your retailers, to your tenants. There's money to be made there. I know Macerich, my old employer, we did do that. This is a very traditional 100-acre mall site. Now, of course, this is, I call it an architect or city planner's dream, all green. So I'm not saying that. But my point is that there are people, that's what they want. And as a mall operator, can we think about commercial ways to increase our green footprint? And are we doing things like in our centers? Is there a recycling for glass, plastic? If not, I think we should. It's not very hard to do. We always felt that the mall has to be the community and social heart of its trade area. So lead by example. And I'm going to tell Neil Raheja, we can't have all these plastic bottles in here. I mean, let's use glass and recycle. I mean, we're going to fill up all the landfills. We'll be swimming in plastic. Okay, serve me. Serve me means service. So, what is your mall's culture? Is it professional? The first time I walked into a mall in kind of a lower middle income area in Jakarta, and I went up to the customer service counter, right? You walk up to the mall, there's the counter. The guy is sitting down low, he's on his phone, the counter is dirty. This is not the experience we want to give one of our guests. So the mall business is an operating business. The person has a decision whether she is going to come to your mall. So I think about that, be hands-on. And the service, right, at the Four Seasons you get different service than the Marriott Courtyard. So you have to make that decision on what your center is. But I'm convinced that everyone deserves respect and there's a level of service you should be providing. So if you're going to operate a high-end mall, what are some services that you might want to think about? Do you offer gift wrapping, product assembly? In India we have lots of labor. Maybe high-income consumers, they don't go to IKEA and put it together themselves, right? They have someone else put it together, but maybe you can give a referral. For your VIP shoppers, do you know who they are? Do you have a loyalty card? Do you have their mobile number? Do you have their email address? Are you creating a space for them where they feel important? Again, these are probably at better, higher-end centers. Concierge delivery. Who's been to the Grove in Los Angeles? Anybody? So the Grove, one of my best friends developed it. This guy's not from the mall business. He's well-traveled, and he just didn't understand why malls gave a really kind of marginal experience. And the founder of the company is Rick Caruso. He's American, of Italian heritage, but he dresses really well. He lives very well. And he said, why do I go to the mall and I have like, a junky food court? He said, I want it to be like how I live. I want it to be the Four Seasons, or I want it to be the Ritz-Carlton. This isn't a mall. And these people, he got so much press, the Wall Street Journal basically said he had the best concierge in the United States. This isn't a mall. And the tenants that are in the mall are not very different than a traditional US mall. Again, you're not going to do this at every one of your centers, but the centers where you think it's important, this might be something to think about. Right across from there is a shoe shine. Can we do shoe shines over the internet? Not yet. So what can we do? What services can we provide to the customer? We're hopeful that our retailers can sell very expensive shoes at the right center. But we should take care of them. These are things we can do to make our customer feel special and come back to our center. I won't go into all these detail on some of these slides, but we all know the expectations of consumers are going up. Experience, a lot of speakers have talked about that the last day or so. So I won't repeat all these things. But if we are in the commodity business as a mall owner-operator, as far as I'm concerned, you will be obsolete because you cannot compete on price. E-commerce will underprice you. Like what did I see? The last 2 days, newspaper delivered to my room, Amazon.com, right? You will not win a price war. So in the end, you have got to figure out how do you differentiate. And if this country ever truly lets Walmart in, you'll have tougher competition. What are the priorities of that consumer? One unique store, I don't know if you've ever seen it, it's called Container Store. Overpriced organizational stuff. I imagine in cities like Delhi and Mumbai, apartments or flats are not huge, so they make your organizing your life a lot easier. Again, business is about solving problems for a customer. Westfield has this in their mall in Century City. It's not cheap, but the reason why it's important, you can come in and say, oh, my room is this big, how could I organize my suits, or my kids have all sorts of junk they've bought. How do I make it so my space is more efficient? It's something that can be done face-to-face as opposed to over the internet. Shifting priorities, right? Everything used to be mass. It's probably still mass in India in a lot of ways. I mean, India is everything, right? There's the old saying about India, whatever you say of India, the opposite is also true. So you have mass, and you have individual people that are really specialized. You have lots of people, right, who shop in London, they shop in the United States, they go to Singapore. So you have everything, but I think there's a big trend to making that individual customer special. Again, mass, that's where Walmart, Amazon, these people are going to be. If you play in that space, I don't think you're going to have a long-term future. These are like MBA-type slides. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. But, there's 4 areas, right? Economic, easy, ego, and experience. I'll let you take a chance to just read that. And some of the things I've been saying, where do you think you have to be with your center? And I'm a big believer in this. 5 means, are you number 1? If you're not, what did Jack Welch always said? If you're not number 1 in your business, if you're mediocre in a lot of things, you're not going to survive. Well, you'll survive until you're outpassed by the rest of the globe. But to compete, you've got to be best in your category. So, customer focus. Easy. Are your malls easy? Is it easy to find the location? Are the hours convenient for the customer? Layout, signage? Have you let the architects design your mall, or have you thought about the mall? Architects are wonderful. I work with architects, but there has to be the tension between the owner, developer, and the architect. The goal is not to win awards. The goal is to have an experience so the customer is happy and the retailer can trade. Make it easy. I thought this was a brilliant idea. Pharmacy, they have a doctor clinic right inside. I know in India you don't need do you need a prescription to get like, say, if you want to get Ambien, what I need a lot when I travel. Do you need a prescription today or no? You do now. Yeah, okay. Okay. I remember like 10 years ago you didn't need one. But let's assume over time we're going to need a prescription. Let's assume that that's the law. So maybe make it easy. You come in with your kid, he's sick, bronchitis, see the doctor, then fill it next door. Economical. I think, as I've said, for the mall business, if you're just the low-cost provider, I think you're in a tough space. Now, maybe how you attack that is you have certain retailers that are very good, like Uniqlo, Forever 21. I don't know if you know some of these brands. They provide a lot of value to the customer at a great price. But, the hypermarts, I know they can be a component of your mall, but anchors traditionally don't pay the same rent. So what you really need to do is make sure the specialty stores can perform well. As an owner, that's where the economic value is. Right? This is the low price. You don't want to be here as a mall operator. Okay, experience we talked about. Does anybody know Italy? No one's been to Italy? Well, so if you go to the United States, I would really recommend it. There's a location in Chicago, there's a location in New York, and there's lots of global locations. So Italy is an Italian company that has kind of elevated the whole kind of food, wine, and beverage experience. This is Disney, you guys know that. But this is Italy. So they have food where you can eat, but you can take away. Pasta, olive oil. Now, in India, I don't know where it would work everywhere, but I suspect over the next decade, a Delhi or Mumbai could support one location. In your center? Same concept. Yeah. So yeah, but maybe it's not Italy. Maybe you create another cuisine. But I think the point is when you look at it, it's theater. It's food, but it's theater. Right? The big Parmesan wheels. When you go there, your experience is uplifted, and you're more willing to spend money. Again, we talked about the customer. Ego. One thing I find in Asia that's very interesting, particularly, let's say, East Asia, luxury brands do exceptionally well, right? In Singapore, China, Taiwan, Japan. I mean, in Japan, like, every secretary has a Louis Vuitton bag. Now, I don't know if India is that, but I do think status is important. And with the mall, are you creating certain kind of experiences through your retailers? When you go to like Neiman Marcus in the US or you go to Louis Vuitton, you go in there and it's theater also. It's an experience. That's something you can't get online. That kind of, I don't know, high-touch, respectful service. So for your centers, again, the ones that are higher, are you having those stores? Now, you can also do it without having the high-end retailers. You know, this is just a fashion brand. You know, nice seating areas. You can't do this online. Does anyone know this store? You can write this one down. Somebody in India can come up with a concept. REI, Recreational Equipment, Inc. It's a cooperative from Seattle. So what do? They provide canoes, anything related to like the outdoor environment. Now, I know there's not a lot of outdoor environment in Mumbai, but I think over time, more and more of your customers will have a second home somewhere else, far away. And they provide a lot of products for those individuals. And they have trips. You know, you go there, there's a community. You're appealing to that person that wants to have an experience outside of just an urban experience. And it's a community. Patagonia, another idea. And the reason I'm bringing this up in, say, India, urbanized India, where most of the malls are happening, Jakarta's the same way, or other big cities. We all know there's no parks, there's no public space. So I think over time, people are going to want experiences outside the cities, maybe 2 hours or 3 hours away. In Shanghai, I know somebody that operates a resort called, you can write this one down, Naked Resort. Now, don't get any ideas. It's not like a nudist colony, okay? Naked Resort just means that it's, you know, back to nature. And what do they appeal to? Upper middle class Chinese who want to get out of the smog and pollution of Shanghai. Before, only the expatriates went. But the last time I was there, there's lots of Chinese, upper income Chinese with their kids. So these kind of brands can go with that. Sony store. Okay, number 4, Clean Me. How are we doing on time? Where's my time? Okay? Okay, Clean Me. All right, this is just a personal thing. Bathrooms. You know, the first time I went to ICSC in Asia was in 2001 in KL. And the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, came in and he gave a talk. And it was really, maybe it wasn't a talk, it was a lecture. And he basically told all the mall operators, your bathrooms are dirty. You know, somebody who has kids or whatever, that's an easy way to differentiate yourself. Have clean bathrooms. Who does? You know, I don't think it's a country trait. Everybody likes a clean bathroom. And one way I think I've found that you can keep a place cleaner, have it staffed. Have somebody in the bathroom. Why? Because people behave differently. They're not as likely to throw it on the ground. We don't have a shortage of labor in this country. Maybe we don't like the labor laws, maybe some individuals, but I think that's something you should think about. It really makes people feel differently. Another thing, if you don't have it, I didn't have it on a slide, do you have a family bathroom? That's a big trend in the US. Men, women, lots of women have young children. You want her to come to your mall with her stroller? How's she going to change the kid? What if she wants to breastfeed? Again, think about the customer. We have found that very effective in bringing mothers to the mall. And maybe put it near your cluster of all your kids' clothes. Okay, now we'll pick on the retailer. When you operate a mall, you're the mayor, right? You're the mayor of the city, and sometimes your retailer is not doing his or her job. Usually it's the store manager. So, you know, your job is to make the mall clean. The bathroom, common areas, parking lot, et cetera, et cetera. Their job, run the store. So if people aren't running the store properly, your mall managers have got to be on top of these people. Number 5, Last one before I take some questions. Protect me, my wife, my daughter, my mother. Okay, I'm not going to go into all the stories. I told people yesterday, my father emigrated from India 50 years ago. So I don't have any ill will, but India has a perception problem, right? We all know it. So what are you doing about security? When she comes to your mall, does she feel safe? From the parking garage to inside? I think it's very important. In the US, we know the customer generally is the woman. So people aren't going to spend money if they don't feel safe. Okay, I won't be the typical American who talks about terrorism all the time. But we know malls, especially high-profile malls, are targets. So security is important. Mall of America has been named. Westfield has been named as targets with the coordinates. Now, this hasn't happened in India to my knowledge, but we know in Kenya, right? Westgate Mall, does everyone know what happened? It can happen. So we are a gathering place in the mall business, so I would take security seriously because the customer is not going to spend money if she doesn't feel safe in whatever category, in whatever way that is. So, number one, awareness. Make sure your security force is professional, visible. Do you have CCTV? Do you have a plan? I know Westgate Mall didn't have a plan. That's what happens. In the US, a lot of American malls did not have a plan, but they do now. Not everybody, but I think something to think about. Because if people don't think it's a safe and secure place to come, they're not going to shop. Okay, break time. That doesn't mean you can leave, but it means you can stand up, you can stretch, and introduce yourself to your neighbor. And piece of humor. Does anyone get this? Okay, I appreciate your time. 3 minutes. And if you don't know someone here, introduce yourself. We're all in the same industry. All right. One chai, that's it. And also for the people that are staying here, I'll take questions on the first half. Don't be shy. No questions? Everybody in the Indian mall industry has got everything figured out? How many malls in India collect tenant sales today? Does anybody in this room, do you get the tenant sales from every retailer? Every tenant? Okay, that's good. How many do not get tenant sales? Everybody gets tenant sales here? Okay, good. You're head of Indonesia. Indonesia, they don't report sales, generally. They have 2 sets of books, right? One for the government, one for their bank, and then one they show the landlord, if they show. All right, tell me what is the best mall in India, in your opinion? Besides your own. You can't name your own mall. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think the best mall in this country is? You can't name your own mall, though. Okay, that's not fair.
There cannot be any one mall which is best mall. However, I do admire other malls besides my own mall. It's
Okay.
Select City, Pacific Mall. and in orbits. So they are following the best practices, and I do like them.
Okay, good. So if somebody was coming to Mumbai from New York for the first time, they only have one day. There's 3 malls they have to see. So they should see In Orbit, that one, of course.
My own mall, Promenade, Select, Pacific in Delhi.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we'll continue then. Make me feel at home. The concept here is that I think a lot of the great centers today, globally, it's a third place. What's a third place? Have people heard this concept before? I'm going to come back to the slide. These are the people everyone talks about third place. You know, you go to the office, that's one place. Your home is a second place. The third place is where you go and interact. Starbucks is actively trying to create a third place where people can hang out, do their internet, talk to people. So, I believe third place should be your mall, especially in urbanized environments where people don't necessarily want to hang out at their house or their flat. So do you have comfortable seating areas in your malls? The malls I've been into the past, doesn't feel like they really want me to be there. They just want me to get in and out. Now, it depends on your trade area. But I think that if you want the wife sometimes, if she happens to shop with her husband, where is he going to sit? You know, you want her to stay longer and spend more money? He needs a place to sit down and enjoy himself or take a nap. Sensory experiences. Do your malls have a water feature? Do you have nice ambiance as far as smell, music? Those are pretty simple things to do. I think Amitabh said it well yesterday. I don't totally agree that mall business is not real estate. It is real estate, but it's an operating business. What we say in the U.S. is the hotel business is the most challenging real estate class. Why? Because your tenant changes every night, almost, right? She comes, she stays, she leaves, or he comes, stays 3 nights. So the mall business, we have longer leases, but we have tenants, retailers, and then we have guests. It's a very intensive business. And again, third place, think about the guest. How would you like to be treated when you come to the mall? Are you just a number? Are you just a dollar sign on your head? Or are you a guest, like in somebody's home? We talked about Starbucks. Anyone heard this term, servicescape? I'm not going to read it to you. I'm going to give you a minute. Just read it. I think it's important. What it means is everything matters, okay? If you're just a commodity, like I showed you, we just have Amazon. We have to elevate the experience for the customer so they come. Now, the last bullet point is something I've always believed. You can change your mall, but you can't change your real estate, right? Your location is fixed. That's like, you know, when you buy a house. You know, in the U.S., when people buy houses, they always think about, they say square feet. The house is 2,000 square feet or 3,000 square feet. What I like about Asia, what's interesting to me, at least like in Singapore or Indonesia, they never talk about the size of the house. I'm talking about landed single-family homes. They talk about how big the land is. Because the house can be changed. You cannot change your real estate. Now, wherever your real estate is, you have a trade area, a customer, maybe it changes over time, but are you giving your customers the right retailers? Are you doing research to know what they want? Connect with me. There's been a lot of discussion in the last day and a half about the internet. So, like I said, we take some notes. Westfield Labs. We talked about Westfield, right? Westfield is either, depending which metric, the largest mall company by market capitalization in the world, or the second. Simon or Westfield, depends which one you want to measure. So Westfield created this thing called Westfield Labs. So www.westfieldlabs.com. So why did Westfield do it? E-commerce is a threat. The malls are all going to go out of business. So they said, hey, we're going to create our own kind of specialty division. It's in San Francisco. Their headquarters for the US are in Los Angeles. Their global headquarters are in Sydney. So why did they do it in the Bay Area, right? Because all the IT. How many Indian engineers are in the Silicon Valley? Thousands and thousands and thousands. That's where the brains are. So check out their website. Don't have to reinvent the wheel. They did it because Wall Street said, what's your strategy against e-commerce? You know, one thing the mall business we have that a lot of other people don't, lots of customers come through our door, right? Every day. Do we know about them? Do we have their mobile phone? Do we have their email address? That data is very important. One thing I was always surprised, Lippo malls. You know, every mall had like a desktop with like their own database. I mean, it's crazy. 200 million customer visits, no one knows who they are. So all these impressions we're having from our guests, our visitors, get that information. Especially in a country like India where the consumer class is huge and getting more affluent. That data will be valuable. And as you're the mall operator, you own it. Maybe you can sell it. Maybe you can joint venture it. Excuse me. So check out Westfield Labs. The other reason I think Westfield did Westfield Labs, they're not just a real estate company. What gets a higher market capitalization? Real estate companies or e-commerce companies? Who gets a higher multiple? Amazon or Simon Malls? The market values Amazon much higher. The $1 of earnings of Amazon is worth a lot more than $1 of profit for Simon. So if you have an e-commerce company and this country has REITs eventually, it'll be worth more money. All right, I'm not an expert on the Indian consumer like everyone in this room, but I suspect it may not be that different. So internet everywhere, it's influencing sales. One term we use, ICSE, web rooming. You ever heard of that? Who knows what web rooming is? 100 rupiah. Rupees, sorry, not rupiah. I think I'm in Indonesia. Who knows what, oh there, what is it?
For the product, they look at the product before going to the mall, online or on an app. It's reverse of showrooming.
Exactly. So in the mall business, do we want to say showrooming or do we want to say web rooming?
Web rooming also.
Right. So everyone in this room, we're on the same team, right? We're in the mall business, shopping center business, web rooming. Yes, at home you can go look up, you know, I want to buy a new black dress for a party. But she's going to go buy it in the mall. So web rooming. And I think the US mall companies, we've spent a lot of time talking about that. Because everyone talks about showrooming. But the reality is people are using both tools. They're using the internet to buy. And I think in the US, retail sales are about 10%. China's about 10%. Indonesia, I don't know, it's sub 1%. What's the percentage of total retail sales for e-commerce in India? Does anyone know? Or what's the rough guess? 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%? 4? Yeah, so it'll probably double next 10 years. The good thing is China's already 10. So the mall operators have time to get better. Do you have a question? No? Okay. You're just taking good notes. Yeah. That people looked on the internet. Maybe. Yeah. You know, for example, let's say you wanted like a little black dress. Maybe you went on Uniqlo.com, you went to Gap.com, you went to Zara.com, you went to H&M.com. Now, I know they don't all operate here, but you might have done your pre-work. That's what I mean.
So it means that awareness matured on brick and mortar.
I would say it's very difficult to know where awareness comes from, right? It comes from magazines, comes from the internet. What I would say is the execution, the purchase, the point of sale happened at the mall.
I wonder how we are measuring that.
I'm sorry?
I wonder how we are measuring that the purchase happened which was influenced by the web.
Because in the US, we know the sales that happen at the retail. This is from a survey. It's like any survey. It's probably plus or minus within 5%. Yeah. I mean, Jupiter Research is the source. They're a
It's wonderful information.
yeah. It's a prominent source. So I don't know for India, but that's why my question mark. But I suspect it's not too far off. Okay, online presence. E-commerce is not just a threat. It's the biggest opportunity, just like on our previous slide. First of all, no one is going to be able to stop e-commerce, right? Not in the US, not in China, not anywhere. So the question is, what are you going to do to react to a change? And the retailers are definitely ahead of the landlords. You know, real estate is one of these businesses that's always been resistant to change. Not just, I don't know India as well, but you know, US is the same, slow. But the retailers are absolutely indifferent to whether they make a sale through a store in your mall, online, in a catalog, etc. They don't care. So if they're going to pay us money through rent, we have to think about how are we going to serve that end guest. So, website. Show of hands for the mall owner operators in the room. Who has a does your individual mall have a website? Okay, yes. Okay. Now, is it worthwhile? What's on there? Store hours? Store list? What else? Layout?
Promotions. And also we have this thing which is lock the stock. So we have tied up with the retailers. And if they have something which is not moving on their stores, they can lock the stock at a lower price and come and buy it.
Good. You're ahead of the curve. I suspect many mall sites are not that good. And by the way, not just here. I mean, other countries, the website is just static, not up to date. You know, they're talking about last year's Diwali or whatever. I've seen it. You go on there. So at your mall, who's in charge of the website daily? Is it the marketing manager? Is it the mall manager? Who is it? It's got to be somebody. Yeah. Hopefully the execution's happening. A lot of websites I go on, I don't see that those minimum requirements are there. And it's only going to become more prominent, right? With mobile phones, smartphone take up. Is it easy? Is it connected? Seamless for the customer? Omnichannel, I already mentioned. I won't spend a lot more time on it. Make it seamless for the customer. Anyone heard of Tom's? Now, these are people you buy a pair of shoes, they donate a pair of shoes. Sometimes we have vacant space in malls. So this is an interactive board where you can just touch it and order. Another idea, Sony, same concept. So this might be a cheap way for a retailer to see if they like your mall. You know, instead of doing a whole fit out, maybe they can take a space that is vacant, that maybe you have a new retailer coming in a year. Think about this for your dead zones. Interactive, right? It's not just real estate, it's e-commerce, the retail. Also for your web. I really believe that the better higher-end malls have to be about fashion. Fashion is very, very hard to do online. I know there's people that do it, but I still think a lot of, particularly women, they want to touch the fabric, see how it looks. Does it make me look fat? I'm joking. But, so, fashion blog, that's a way to interact with the customer. This is Westfield San Francisco Center. You know, a lot of upscale brands. Okay, globalize me. I know somebody yesterday said, Indianize me. No, globalize me. Globalize me. I know that there's lots of things that will be Indianized, but I think the better centers, they have studied overseas, they have traveled overseas, they have an aunt in London, their brother is a doctor in New York City, et cetera, et cetera. I know, especially this room, you're all rich, prominent, successful people, okay? So let's raise the standard. Globalize me. Read this slide, and I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm making a joke, but I mean, I don't know who's been to Dubai in this room, but I know a lot of you have. There's fantastic centers in Dubai. And you walk around the mall, you see a lot of the customers. So all those rupees are going there. They have oil. Keep the rupees here. Okay? Raise the standard of the centers here. So, of course, go to Dubai for other reasons, but those centers should be here. And I'm not just picking on India, but who knows this center? Anybody? Raise your hand. Who's been to Singapore? So since I'm not in an Indonesian audience, I can make a joke. Do you know what the best city in Indonesia is? Singapore. That's where all the Indonesian Chinese go to spend money. Indonesia, India, some of the challenges, I know, bureaucracy, corruption, et cetera, et cetera. The industry has to fight through all that stuff because the dollars or the rupees or rupiah will flow somewhere else. Hey, world-class center in China. That's my differentiating point. We all know, what are the top 4 largest countries in the world? China, India, United States, Indonesia. No reason that the top centers can't be built here. And Indonesia, I would say, probably overall better quality centers. I joke about Singapore, but Jakarta actually has quite a few top-tier world-class centers. Okay, influence the other way. So at the beginning, I talked about 3rd Street Promenade next to Santa Monica Place. Famima is a Japanese convenience store. Way better than any U.S. chain. 7-Eleven, Circle K. The people that actually made 7-Eleven so successful were the Japanese. They took the concept, an American concept, and made it strong. So when I say globalization, I don't just mean west flowing east. I also mean east flowing west, north flowing south, etc. So it's about competing at a global international standard. And the retailers here, I've seen great fashion brands here, but they will raise their game. As I said yesterday, don't be afraid. And as mall owners, we have got to push the retailers to be willing to fight competition. Because, by the way, if the customer here, if she can't get it in Bombay, she'll just buy it in Dubai. It's only 3 hours. You're a better customer, she's going to go anyway. You think you're going to stop it? You can't stop competition. So open yourself up. And so I know we don't have a lot of our retailer friends here, but push, push, push. Okay, respect my time. Consumer values, I'm not going to read the slide. We know all these things. This is for American, but I suspect it's probably not very different. Percentage of Americans, question, urban Indians, who always feel rushed. Well, who's got the tougher job, women or men? Of course, the woman would say that. No, I'm joking. My wife also agrees. Why? Because she's working, a lot of them now, right? Dual income professional women, particularly. And then they have kids. So what are we doing to make it easier for her? Who spends more money on apparel and fashion, men or women in India? Wow, shocker. You know the only place before that men spend more? China. Yeah. I guess they don't share their money. I don't know. But everywhere else I know, women spend more money. So that's what I'm saying on that mall experience. Respect her time. Make it easy. Make sure your app works, your mobile phone, etc. Easy in and out. Make it safe. All these things I've been talking about. Okay, American architects are famous for coming to the Middle East and building their dream project. The problem is I go there, I get lost in some of these malls. So make it easy. Maybe the outside, the facade, great. I love design. Design matters. Curb appeal. But inside the center, work on making it easy to get in and out. Signage, consistent. Sorry? Get a mic? Oh, here, go ahead. It's okay. And have room for events, make it special, whatever holidays where you operate. Okay, we talked about Amazon earlier. You know, it's like they say, sometimes in war, right? With your enemy, try to make your enemy your friend. If they're your threat, I don't know. This is idea. Like in Los Angeles, if you live in a single-family home, some very creative criminals have figured out you just follow the UPS truck. You know what UPS is? Delivery van. I don't know which company in India. So they just follow the UPS truck. He goes, puts the Amazon package. Then the criminal goes up there, takes the package, puts it in his car. So this is something that they've thought about. So the package goes here, and then you can pick it up later. So I don't know, in an urban Indian environment, most people are living in a flat, I assume. Maybe you can leave it with a doorman. Maybe you leave it at the door. I'm not sure. But this might be an idea to think about. I mean, Amazon's here. They're going to probably make the sale regardless. Whether you like it or not, they're going to probably make the sale. So maybe you co-opt them. Okay, last one, number 10. Then we'll do questions. It's just my point to plan for the future. All the great malls I know, they have a plan. They always want to improve. So Macerich, I worked there for 12 years. Mace Siegel, who's passed away, was the chairman. And his first mall in California was Lakewood Mall. You can write it down, Lakewood Mall. if you looked over the 50-year period of time that it was in operation, it has changed many, many, many times. There's been many iterations. I think my brother, who's also in the shopping center business, he's been leasing that. But when I started at Macerich, the 4 department stores that were there at the beginning, only 2 remain. They're different. We had JCPenney, still there. Montgomery Ward from Chicago, bankrupt. Mervyn's department store, it's kind of a mid-range department store, bankrupt. Macy's, still alive. Robinson's May was like Macy's. Macy's acquired them. That's just in the, let's say, 15 years that happened. So Macy's bought Robinson's May. There's 1 store left. Montgomery Ward, I did a Target deal. If people are familiar with Target, I think. It's like Walmart, but nicer. That replaced Montgomery Ward's. Mervyn's, bankrupt, right? We replaced them with Kohl's. And then we took one of the spaces and we made it Costco, the first Costco in the Macerich portfolio. So all I'm saying is that the only consistency in even a developed market is change. So as the owner of your property, it's not a one-time deal, right? Think about it from a generational perspective. One of my favorite quotes. We know all this. I won't spend time on it. Change, change. Does anybody know who John Wanamaker is? He was a very famous department store operator. Wanamaker's. Also gone. But early part, I like this quote. Half of my advertising doesn't work. Unfortunately, I don't know which half. Metrics. Great mall operators in the U.S. have metrics. How many people are coming to your mall? How much do they spend? How much do your retailers, right? Anybody who has an MBA, they know you cannot manage what you cannot measure. So you need to get metrics. To the extent companies in India eventually have publicly traded mall companies, what do Wall Street analysts, Bombay Stock Exchange analysts, what's their background? They're accountants, finance, MBAs. They need facts. I know Amitabh talked about, the finance yesterday at the ceremony. It's both. The shopping center industry is both creative and it's financial. I know lots of people that are very creative, but if you don't have any money, you can't do anything. So try to get metrics in every category. I talked about it at the beginning. This is about my idea about plan. Sales productivity is the key to the shopping center business. I cannot stress, if you remember one thing, rent is a function of sales. Rent is not a function of real estate. Rent is a function of sales. If a retailer can do no business, they can pay no rent. So how do we help the retailer get better? Right? Make the retailer be able to perform better. This is all planning. Bottom one is the only one I want to focus on. If the retailer is no good for your center, maybe she or he should be somewhere else. Or go out of business. I mean, the U.S. is a very, very competitive place in retail. Half the department stores I started working with in the mid-90s are no longer in business. Capitalism's tough, but the consumer benefits. Oh, last one on that. If you renew a lease here, make the retailer remodel the store. Can someone tell me what's the average lease term for a specialty store in this country now, today? I mean, is it a 2-year term, 3-year term, 5-year term? for a small store? 3 years. Okay, in the US, it's 10 years. In China, it's 3 years. A lot of countries, 5 years. So labor cost is lower here, construction cost is lower. Yeah, so when you turn over that lease or renew, request them to remodel something, because you want it to always be fresh, right? Not an old store. Merchandise strategy. So I can't remember the presenter yesterday. Somebody had a slide that they had a retailer now, and then their new retailer is this. Like, they improved their merchandise mix. I think that's very important. Great global malls, they know where they're going. Like, for example, let's say they have a mom and pop, but they want to have Gap. So have a plan. Have a dream. Is every center going to be Rodeo Drive? No. But whatever it's going to be, where you want to go, you have to have a strategy of getting there. We talked about this early. Visual. These are the things you control. On the storefronts, somebody else had a slide yesterday where they had all the luxury brands with their beautiful storefronts. I'm a believer in that. The great retailers, let them, they're the show. Our job is to display the retailer and let them shine. Mall marketing plan. These are all plans. I'm not going to. I'll spend less time on these. You can look at them later, but plan, 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 plan. Okay, after this, I'm going to show a few slides on a project a few of my friends are working on, but the reason after this I'll show those slides because I think they've done a really good job in focusing on these things. So again, wow me, green me, serve me, clean me, protect me. Make it my home. Connect with me, globalize me, respect me, plan for me. So which project? Does anybody know about the Sacramento Kings? Anybody an NBA fan? Nobody follows basketball? Chicago Bulls, LA Lakers, nobody? According to a lot of NBA research, India is going to be a huge market for NBA. So Sacramento, California is the capital of California, right? And the first Americans of Indian heritage have bought the Sacramento Kings. I don't know if you know that, but you know they're self-made people. You can look them up. So Downtown Plaza was a mall in the middle of Sacramento. I think Sacramento is the 4th or 5th largest city in California. Failure. Mall's a failure. It's Downtown Plaza. Designed by Jurdy, actually, way back. Then acquired by a group that I'm friends with. And then the Sacramento Kings were sold to this group of Americans of Indian descent. And they decided to build a new stadium. Sometimes your mall, your land site, the best use may not be what it used to be. Maybe you need a new mousetrap. So that's the site, downtown, the Capitol, etc. I know this is hard to read. That's what they did to it. Now, I know it's very difficult to tear down income, like an income-producing property. But we talked about it earlier. You can't change your real estate. But in the United States, there's been more urbanization, more people willing to go downtown. So the mall site, that's what they're building. It's $500 million US. That's where the Sacramento Kings are going to play. You will see this in India because they're going to broadcast it in India. That's part of the reason that group bought it. And attached to it is a mixed-use project. So the old mall didn't work. So this idea of a new stadium, the NBA, and mixed-use, open air. So I will close with this. So there's probably things you may have learned today. There may be things you already know. The question is, can we go out and execute it? And I'm confident that the professionals in this room can raise the industry to a new level. And I'm excited for the future. So I thank you. I appreciate your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got lots of time for questions, and Thomas will be happy to take them. So please raise your hands. We'll have a microphone passed on to you, and you can have all your doubts.
This is Harish here. Yesterday there was a lot of quite a bit of talk on collaborative marketing between mall owners and the tenants. And I'm with your kind of experience in US and in Asia and Indonesia especially, do you feel the necessity of something like that? Because typically I would think brands have their own strategy and a mall would have its own individual strategy. What's your opinion to that?
I think collaboration is definitely improving in the US because there's larger groups of malls. I think that's the big difference. You know, if you're Simon Properties and you have 200 malls, right, and you're H&M, and you want to come to the United States, you have to work in a more collaborative model. I think where there's markets where there's not as many centers, the retailer has more power, and so it's difficult. I mean, I think we all know the oldest, well, it's not the oldest profession, but the second oldest profession is landlord-tenant, right, the real estate business. And it has been historically adversarial, and I know it's a challenge, but going back to the idea that rent is a function of sales, the reality is the retailer and the landlord or the mall owner have a symbiotic relationship. But I think it's a challenge. I don't think it's, you know, in the U.S., the joke is, you know, the retailer always says it's about the relationship when they want something. But when you want something, it's not. Like I joke in the financial crisis, you know, a lot of retailers came to mall landlords and said, I need a rent reduction, my business is way down. And I used to say, jokingly, I said, you know, when the economy was really good in 2006 and you were doing twice the plan that you expected, you never came to me and said, I'd like to pay more rent. So I think with the retailer, collaboration is the key, but I think it's going to require both sides to be open and transparent. And that's why I like metrics. You know, in the US and Australia, we know what the sales performance is. So if the store is doing well, you know, and they know. And I think transparency will help collaboration. Otherwise, it's, you know, people are hiding. I've never had a retailer tell me if they don't report. It's always bad, right? Sales could have always been better, et cetera, et cetera. Any other questions? Please.
Hello. Yeah, hi, this is Deepesh. So you were talking about the collaboration between e-retail and the actual malls, e-commerce and the actual malls. How do you think that will span out in the future? Is it a good way to go? Like I was reading that eBay has done in some of the malls. They have put up, like in Westfield itself, they have put up their digital stores there. So that collaboration, is it sustainable or how will it work forward?
You mean eBay putting a store inside a mall? Yeah. I haven't seen a lot of, personally I haven't seen a lot of success in that case, but I'm all about experimentation. Why not? Let them try. I think someone said yesterday, there's many retailers in the US that were e-commerce first, but now they're opening stores. Let them try. What's the difference? If it works, great. If it doesn't work, you change it. Like my old chairman, May Siegel, when he started in the mall business, he said, 10% of the retailers we're going to change every year. So I guess I'm for, I don't know if eBay will work in an online inline space. I'm not sure. But I think somebody will figure out the intersection between the mall and e-commerce. And I think just give, your leases are short here, right? 3 years. Give them 2 years. Give them a pop-up store. Try it for a year. I don't know.
Will it not kill the brick and mortar stores? Will it not kill the brick and mortar stores around it? Like other stores, departmental stores and apparel and accessory stores. Having a digital counter. Actually, this is an experimental done being by Westfield in San Francisco. Where they have done in one of their malls, they put up a eBay store. Actually, they've done a digital store in, I guess, 3 of the malls.
I'm sorry. I apologize. We all speak a form of English, and I'm having a difficulty understanding.
We'll take it offline. No issues. Thank you. Right.
Thanks. Yeah, please.
If I'm not wrong, you're trying to say that what is happening between the brick and mortar and and what is the kind of marriage that can exist between the two. So in my mall, I have a retailer who was 100% e-commerce. He approached me and we tried. We gave him a pop-up store. And now he has 3 more brick and mortar stores in other malls.
Good.
So it is not something that cannot be experimented. So he is very well present on the web and he is equally doing well at brick and mortar as well. So only thing is we have to develop a model wherein we both can benefit. So in the case of e-commerce, I had the rentals very high and it was not a rev share because nowhere I could control his sales transactions. So what if, say, if my rentals were 100%, this is a hypothetical figure I'm giving you. So I charged him just the double and he was ready to pay because he was inviting his customers for pickup and also for look and feel of his product. His sales rose, my sales also as well.
That's good.
I think that answers your question. Thank you. Name of Free Culture. That retailer is Free Culture. You can check it.
Hi, my question to you is, over the period of time, have you seen any change in the way the mall management team or the professionals engaged in mall management, their remuneration or rewards evolve and how they have evolved and to what they are linked at present in other countries, and especially in the malls which you say are very successful?
No, I think there's been a professionalization of the mall industry in general. You know, my father was head of real estate for a relatively large grocery chain in Chicago. And he used to joke that most developers would have been used car salesmen. And, you know, the industry in the United States changed. A lot of REITs came into the market in the, early 90s. All those companies went public. Simon, General Growth, Macerich. And that's when, on the, I'll call the executive side, became more professional. And then also, I think concurrently, there's been a lot of professionalization in the mall operation side. And not to plug ICSC, and ICSC is a nonprofit organization, but they have a certified shopping manager, certified leasing specialist, certified, and there's coursework and an exam that you have to take. And I think that's raised the standard of the professionals in the business. And, this is not I make a joke, but yeah, you can't pay to pass, It's a real credential. You got to take the exam, you got to study, and, there's some professional development. And I think that, most people probably at a conference like this are in a more senior level, should encourage your staff. I know Indians like education and credentials. So, a lot of things you can do online. I was in Singapore last week. They had the Asia Pacific shopping center training, more for junior and mid-level people. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, there was no one from India, but there was quite a few people from China, from Malaysia, Korea. So I think that professionalizing the industry is a good idea, and there's resources. Just go online. Because a lot of the fundamentals of the mall business are not different. I know everyone always tells me India is different, this. Indonesia, they tell me it's different. The fundamentals of the shopping mall business are not different. So I think that I would encourage people to take those courses. And I'm not saying that because it's an American original group. It's a global group. So the short answer is yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and a big hand to Mr. Thomas Malayal for that very, very engrossing and interactive session, where he shared with us the best practice for rejuvenating and reinvigorating malls from experiences across the world. Thank you once again, sir.